Hey everyone, Christian here. Justin is on vacation this week, so we're unlocking one of our Patreon episodes from last year where we do a deep dive on Panda Bear meets the Grim Reaper. It's one of our faves, so I hope you enjoy. Speaking of the Patreon, we've got a bunch of other episodes on there to check out, and if you haven't hopped on yet, now is a great time to do so. We've got some exciting interviews on the way with people that you know, so keep an eye out for those. Okay, let's get to the show.
Family 028, Albulidae. Species 028.001, Albula vulpes. Bonefish.
Did you ever watch 30 Rock?
A little bit, yeah. A long time ago.
When I think of the Panda Bear meets the Grim Reaper cover art, I always think of this one joke from 30 Rock where Jack Donaghy, who's Alec Baldwin's character, is like, he like hallucinates like a alternate reality version of himself. It's like there's like a gas leak in the building and this like alternate version, like more successful version, like comes into his office. He's like, "What happened to you, man? Like, should have been at TV for only 6 months before you like moved up the GE ladder." And normal version Jack Donaghy's like, "Oh yeah, well at least I don't wear striped shirts and a striped tie together." An alternative Jack goes, "It's called power clashing. And I do it because I can." When I see the Grim Reaper art, I always think that's power clashing, baby.
Definitely power clashing mindset. Yeah.
Bonefish.
Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to Bonefish. We love music. We love weird music. We love psychedelic music, experimental music, whatever you want to call it. We're here to talk about it. And I'm Justin.
I'm Christian. And today we're continuing our series on Panda Bear's solo records.
Oh yeah.
Panda Bear is, of course, Noah Lennox, founding member of Animal Collective, who we talk about a whole bunch on here. And today's topic of discussion is Panda Bear meets the Grim Reaper.
Hell yeah.
His psychedelic hip hop record of sorts. And we're going to get to more of that in a bit. We're going to go track by track. We're going to get deep on it. But first, it's time for another installment of Bonefish Recs.
So we've been doing Bonefish Recs and recommending old music. The only rule is no recommendations from something that came out in the current year. We just feel like there's so much new music attacking you every day that, hey, there's so much awesome old music. Let's share some of that. So
It's there already, and it will be forever.
yeah. What'd you pick this week, Christian?
I picked a record called The Expanding Universe
Ooh.
by Laurie Spiegel. Do you know this album?
No, you got me.
I got him. This is another older record. I think it first came out in the 70s, but definitely doesn't sound like that. It sounds like it could have come out last year even.
Nice.
Oh, it came out in 1980, actually. It's by this composer named Laurie Spiegel. She's also like a computer engineer. She worked for Bell Laboratories.
Cool.
She had a piece of music go out on that like golden disc that Carl Sagan like shot into space.
Wow.
She had some composition on that. But this record, The Expanding Universe, came out in 1980. It was reissued in 2012, and it's really cool. It's electronic, sort of like minimally composed, but the results definitely don't sound minimal. It's really kind of colorful and inventive and imaginative.
Uh-huh.
she made this record with like, this was the 80s, so she was using computers and like sequencers that were like literally the size of rooms, like kind of painstakingly like mapping out all the notes to feed these old synths that would then make her music. Really fun listen, really nice if you're like working on something. You can totally have it on in the background while you do stuff. You can totally tune in and just feel like your body is disintegrating. All the cells are just dissolving inside you. I'll plug 2 tracks from it. Track 1 is called Patchwork. It's like a 9-minute kind of crazy arpeggiating, colorful, sort of spiraling, beautiful song. And then there's another one called Drums, which is like a more minimal kind of crazy polyrhythmic synth track.
Nice, yeah. Experimental music from the 80s. You don't really hear about it a lot, or at least I don't know a lot about it.
All right, what you got?
I'm going to continue with a summer vibe pick.
We're going to have to rename the segment at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably just go by the seasons because that's my listening habits in my brain. I'm picking a Belgian sort of collective from the early 90s called Pablo's Eye. Their albums got reissued, like, I think in 2018. They didn't really have a lot of albums. They had like 1 or 2. This album's called Bardo for Pablo. It's like a half-hour long. And I guess I would describe it as if I were to give you a mood board of like the Pure Mood soundtrack plus Aphex Twin plus Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
This is the album for you. I know it was the album for me. When I heard it, I was like, wow.
When you were doing that, I felt like the Vince McMahon meme of like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounded better with each adjective.
Yeah, there's like the first song is called Amb 8. It's like 12 minutes long, and it's like if you were, in like a circle in the middle of nowhere Europe taking ayahuasca, this music would be playing. There's like a breakbeat section that's really cool.
Okay, nice.
And yeah, a lot of like, chanting, very minimal, but also a little campy. It's very 90s. And there's like some spoken word, but it's clearly somebody who's speaking as, English is their second language, like weird new agey dialogue and stuff like that. Anyway.
Cool.
I made a playlist that I think I posted to our Instagram. And so it kind of fits into the genre of like ambient dance music from the 90s.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that 90s ambient playlist you made.
Yeah, check that out, y'all, if you like that shit.
Which they're all on the Instagram. We've gotten some questions through like Spotify and stuff, like where are the playlists, where can I find them? And they're all on the gram. They're on a little right below our profile pic.
Yeah, we archived them. If you go through the archive stories, you can find the playlist. Yeah, so yeah, Pablo's Eye. Sick band.
All right, let's talk Grim Reaper. Where were we? Power clashing.
Definitely a maximalist vibe on this one.
Yeah, long gone are the monochrome tomboy days of yore. We're in Technicolor now.
Yeah.
As we encounter the Reaper.
Yeah, it's crazy. You started playing these songs 10 years ago.
Wild.
And then the album came out, hasn't quite been 10 years. It's been 9.5 years. January 2015, I think it came out on Domino. I feel like this is his most prolific period. Would you yay or nay that?
I would yay that. I also think this period, it's an interesting era for Noah Lennox and for Animal Collective in the sense that I feel like, at least for me and maybe for some listeners, the hype for the next Panda Bear record maybe started to exceed hype around Animal Collective in general. You know, this is post Centipede. It's also post Daft Punk Doing It Right collab, which is an interesting turn in Panda Bear's career. I mean, that was like the biggest record of the year that year.
I agree. Yeah, it
and
feels
although
like
Animal Collective were big then, like they weren't quite, that quite stratospheric. That being said, I'm sure there was a lot of people who are Daft Punk fans who heard this catchy dance track. Were like, oh, and check out this Panda Bear guy, and then maybe found Grim Reaper, and we're like, what the fuck?
Check out this Panda Bear group.
Check out the Panda Bears.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like 2014, Panda Bears is still riding high. Animal Collective, at least critically, in the elite press, has gone down. And there was just a shift in music kind of, I think a year or two before, to just kind of away from the weird indie rock to more of a, I guess, like poptimism mixing with indie dance music kind of was the sound of the moment. And obviously Panda Bear's music has always kind of floated in that realm, though he's always made it, the accessible stuff weird and vice versa.
For sure.
And so, and I think, and this is like the beginning of a bit of a wilderness period for the band, and where there's just more solo releases than band releases, which is kind of how the band started originally, more separate.
Yeah.
But a lot of music. I mean, there's an EP that preceded this that was good. The album, a sort of postscript EP that I really like. There's remixes. Swallow at the Hollow, which is hashtag for the heads.
Yeah.
I mean, this album was really well received. Critically, I think Pitchfork gave it a better score than Tomboy.
That's interesting.
I guess before we get into it, like, I know you mentioned that I caught some maybe overrated vibes from you. Do you feel like that now, or how does it sound to you almost 10 years removed?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's overrated. I mean, I think the press was really riding hard for our boy Panda at this moment, following Person Pitch and Tomboy. But I think it's deserved. I mean, I really dig this album.
Mm-hmm.
I think where it stands for me amongst Panda's discography is it's maybe not as like complete to me as a whole record as maybe the previous two we've discussed, but I think the highs are super high. And I don't even think there's low lows. I just think there's moments on this album that occupy like a different space in the Panda Bear universe for me. And that space is like a little more kind of like chilled, grooved, a little more laid back.
Mm-hmm.
If the triangle of Tomboy is like voice, sort of straightforward Spartan primal rhythms, and guitar, I feel like the triangle of this one is like voice still at the top, and then like breakbeats, funky grooves, and then kind of like crazy synth wizardry. I feel like this is the album he really kind of enters sort of synth warrior zone.
Yeah.
He says it's sort of the first album that he like really used a computer with. Like he was using Ableton. Obviously he like arranged his stuff on the computer, but I think this is the first one he really says like I started using the computer as a tool, which opens up all these crazy potential directions. And but no, I really dig this record. How do you feel about it at the moment?
I like it. I still like it. I agree with you. Some high highs. I really like the synths, some of these retro synths that I think are a Sonic Boom contribution. I think it's the EMS Synthy AKS. I don't really know anything about it, but it sounds like, in some of these short interludes and parts, it sounds like a retro synth kind of, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about?
Totally, yep.
And I think Sonic Boom has used that in Spaceman 3, and it's kind of a very distinct sound from him. And I really like that. I feel like this is the first record where he's actually kind of on almost an equal creative footing as Noah, as a producer on this album.
Yeah, he was involved earlier, right? Like earlier on in the process. I know Tomboy, he kind of came in
Yeah,
for the mixing, but this he was
right.
a little more hands-on.
Yeah. I don't think my opinion of it has really changed. It's just that like the environment and stuff I'm listening to now isn't really music like this, right? That I listen to, kind of the more dense, weird dance pop stuff, but it's still cool. And I remember when I first heard these songs and I was kind of like, okay, because I saw them live first and, the breakbeat stuff was apparent, which I love breakbeats. I love the 90s breakbeat stuff. But this one really, the album really grew on me over a
Yeah,
period of a year when it first came out. And, some of these like crooner, more kind of elegant songs like Tropic of Cancer and Lonely Wanderer, we haven't really heard him do that much.
totally. Yep.
And
Yeah,
that was very interesting. Like imagine a whole Panda Bear album and this kind of, you know, mature, classically composed mode would be really interesting.
yeah, holding like a highball of like cognac or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, just like
Chiefing on a fat stogue.
yeah, with like, the teardrop piano stuff. I mean, his voice is in some parts like less affected, which is really cool when
Yep,
you really hear how good of a singer he is without any effects, but just like really good, recording techniques and good mics and stuff like that.
for sure. Definitely feels a step up in terms of like confidence in that level. Things are a little less masked.
Yeah. And there are some badass beats like and sounds like almost black dicey, like dirty. Like this is like a messier, kind of dirtier album.
For sure. Yeah. And like the pairing of this crazy out there synth work that just sounds like something's self-destructing basically paired with these like super classic groovy breaks that some of them are like very iconic and have been used in like hundreds of songs is a pretty weird combo. Like it is
Yeah.
like this is a pretty weird album and it's sort of an experiment in that way and I totally feel you like when it first came out there was definitely tracks I was like, oh, hell yeah, like Mr. Noah, Boys Latin. There were ones that were like immediate. And then there were other ones where it was like definitely more growers, like maybe Crosswords I would put in that category and like Butcher Baker and other things were a little more.
Yeah.
I had to kind of tune in more.
Yeah, I believe this got an 8.7 on Pitchfork, which is pretty good.
They did like a big feature on him too for this. I remember like a writer like went to Lisbon.
Yeah, and so this was kind of, the midway point between Centipede Hurts and Painting With, and I feel like this music is almost kind of like a mix of those two things.
Yeah, Grim Reaper kind of maps out some of where the band would go with Painting With, whether it's through like the pocketing kind of back and forth singing, which is a characteristic of this album.
Yeah.
I saw some interviews where he kind of talks about this album being like the close of like the third part in the trilogy of Person Pitch, Tomboy, and Panda Bear. Like there's a Rolling Stone interview where he's like, yeah, part of me thought about like retiring the Panda Bear moniker after this record because it's like,
oh, interesting.
It is like there is this story through this album that's like this kind of death of an identity and like reemergence of another one. Obviously, he didn't do that, but it kind of goes to show to what extent he sort of viewed this as like closing the bookend on this sort of era.
We did get kind of a reboot with Buoys, but before that came A Day with the Homies, which was more of a, I guess, smaller level release. It wasn't on streaming initially for a few years.
Right.
And that was more like classic Panda Bear, a little more raw, but yeah, I do remember him being like, this is, a part of a trilogy. And not a lot of samples like in Tomboy, not like Person Pitch or anything.
Yeah, there's a couple, but yeah, most of them are drums. Most of them are, which I think he said too at one point, like towards the beginning, were kind of just placeholder beats that he thought at one point he would replace with like programmed beats, but it's sort of his hip hop album. I mean, he's called it that. For that reason, in terms of like rhythmic and groove stuff, it's definitely there. Mostly side A though. Side B kind of goes further, gets off the groove train a little bit. Like you said, more some of those crooner tracks. in some different directions. I mean, one of the best things about this album to me is how it sort of tells a story from beginning to end. He says, I think he recorded like 19 songs for this era, and then from there, whittled them down to make a record that did have like a sort of narrative flow, which is why we have these 2 EPs on either side that are both super solid and have really great tracks on them.
Yeah. Should we go into it?
Sounds good to me. Track 1, Sequential Circuits.
Mm-hmm. Classic intro song.
Yeah, really lovely entry into the world of this album. Got the kind of organ doing this ascending little shape, and then call and response vocals. Yeah, take just what you need. It's a vibey one. It sort of feels like watery, and we're not in the beat land yet, but we're sort of floating on this gently undulating beach, surf, foam, whatever you want to call it.
Definitely. We haven't gotten moving yet. It's all right. It's all right.
I really like it. I'd say it's more than I.
Wow.
Maybe it was a little underwhelming at first, but it grew, and it grew fast on me. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Don't hate it.
And Sequential Circuits is the name of like a synth company. They make the Prophet 5, and which is like one of the most popular synths ever. So right off the bat, you're sort of signaling like, you're going to hear some crazy sounds on this record.
Definitely my least favorite track 1 Noah song
okay.
from his solo albums. But I don't hate it, I don't hate it at all. He's had some great track 1 heavy hitters. This one's kind of more in the vein of we're going to ease into it.
Yeah, interesting. I think Comfy and Nautica is maybe the best opener, but I might put this above You Can Count on Me.
Yeah, You Can Count on Me is a classic one. I mean, even Bowie's track 1 that's probably my favorite song on the album. I really like Dolphin. Reset kicks off really hard, really fun.
Yeah, it comes in guns blazing. This is certainly not guns blazing, but it's a great vibe setter.
Mm-hmm.
It's laid back, but it's still got that element of like badassness to it,
Yeah.
We're about to embark
we're praying
on a journey that will change us.
Yeah.
Track 2, Mr. Noah. All-timer Panda Bear song.
Wow. I'm sorry, bro. It finally hit me revisiting this album that I just don't really like this song.
What?
Okay, the beat I love, the break beats, the grimy kind of loop, whatever the fuck that is. Where it's like you open a closet up and there's just like monsters like living there or something.
It's a lot.
I like that. So the part that I really kind of am just like
the AAAA.
Yes, exactly. It's just kind of like, bro, we know you're mailing it in right there. You're kind of mailing it in.
What?
And
it's it like, in. Okay.
Nico, it's like what people who don't like Panda Bear or Animal Collective hear in their heads.
It's this kind of thing. Okay, so here, I will say, he tends to get really close to making things that are like conventionally catchy and then like fucking up part of it to keep it from being that. Like Dolphin to me is a great example of that. Like the water drop beat. I'm like, man, if that was just like a regular snare, or a regular piece of percussion, so many more people would be like open to like listening to this. But I like
that's a great example. I mean, it's a little grating for me. It's just, why, but our boy's having fun. It's the beginning of a journey. He's having fun, I would say, having sat with this album for a long time now, that, I'm not crazy about how it started, but that's just me, Well,
speaking of the vocal stutter, I was doing a little research and I believe it's a Rihanna nod.
Really?
There's an interview with DMY where Rihanna comes up in the interview and the interviewer says, "Are you into Rihanna?" Noah says, "Yeah, for sure. There's a vocal trick on Mr. Noah that's definitely heavily inspired by a Rihanna song.
Oh, wow.
That stuttered bit, it's a Rihanna shout out." So
Wow.
there you go. I don't know if maybe it's
I
like
didn't know that.
under my umbrella, maybe it's like, maybe that's where it's coming from. I'm not sure. I'm sure she maybe does stuff like that on other tracks, but
I like Rihanna.
yeah, dude.
Would love for her to come back.
Bad girl Riri.
I do like the "Here comes another one, take a look, like the bridge
Here
or
come that off again, drip a lot, drop a lot. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, that's my favorite part probably as well.
Heavy groove.
Yeah, so it's it's clear that this is a dirtier, messier, a bit more in your face record. This was the first single, we should say.
First single, pretty lengthy intro of, like you said, there's
definitely a lengthy intro. Let's it ride. Weird
electronics swirling around, and then like you said, this alien monster bursts out of the closet. I kind of picture like Pandora's box opening a little bit, and then that beat comes in. It's definitely signaling a sense of autobiography, or talking at least about self-identity. Mr. Noah being the name of the track. There's a quote from the Pitchfork feature. He says, "I was talking to this healer witch person who lives down the river a little bit, and she was like, 'You have 3 spirit animals. The first is a wolf, the second is a bear, and the third is an eagle.'" And then Noah says, "So I set up the song according to that. I tried to find bits of myself that fit into that template." So there's like the dog getting bit on the leg. I think that's like the wolf. And then "Here comes that oaf again" is the bear. Which I love the idea of someone being like, "Oh, one of your spirit animals is a bear." And instead of being like, "Oh, cool, I'm powerful and ferocious," being like, "Oh, I'm a lazy and oafish," and like tripping all over the place.
That's interesting because, he picked Panda Bear as his moniker probably before he was told.
That's true.
His spirit animal.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, they are the most oafish of the bears, I suppose. Don't want to get out of bed.
It gets better, y'all. It gets better.
Just wanting to stay cozy in his covers.
Yeah.
Davy Jones' Locker, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Best track on the album.
This is where you really start to tune in. You're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Is Davy Jones, who is that? Like an explorer or something? I don't know.
I thought he was like the spirit of the ocean, or I don't know if
cool.
Davy Jones' Locker is like the bottom of the sea, right? That's where you go and you walk the plank.
This is like an under a minute long little segue track of just like synth blasts.
Yeah, sort of circling around your mind.
Yeah.
It's like a little loading screen. It's kind of what I think of. Like when you're playing video games, you're like, it's a little downbeat before you dive back into the action.
It sounds like Sonic Boom and Noah kind of jamming on synths or something.
Yeah. I get the idea listening to like this, and even like Swallow for the Hollow and stuff, is like there's a lot of just kind of little psychedelic snippets lying around, and they sort of chose these to be little chapter markers throughout this album, kind of signify like maybe the next stage of this journey of the breaking down of the self-identity or whatever. According to Wikipedia, Davy Jones' Locker is a metaphor for the oceanic abyss, the final resting place of drowned sailors and travelers. The origins of the name Davy Jones, the sailor's devil, are unclear. In this little bridge takes us to Crosswords. Where are you at with this one?
We're warming up. We're cooking with some gas here. Another breakbeat. I like the song. I think Pete Rock did a remix of this because there was like a remix EP too, right? I think there's like a third one. Anyway, his remix, the breakbeats hit pretty hard, more up front in the mix. But yeah, this one's cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I like this one. It's groovy. It's both upbeat and also kind of like pretty low energy and subdued. I feel like his melodies and vocals, while really nice and sort of are the main thing you grab onto and like follow throughout the song, are maybe among his like less memorable in terms of just like hookiness.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I like the like delayed piano chord hits. The drum break is Ashley's Roach Clip by the Soul Searchers.
Oh.
Which is one of like the drum breaks sort of from hip hop history. According to whosampled.com, it's been used in 520 songs.
Oh, wow. Good call.
So
yeah.
It's like one of the iconic hip hop drum breaks.
Yeah.
And then the outro where like the kind of arpeggiating synth comes in and it's like there's no more lyrics, but it's just like such a groove. It's cool. I feel like there's a lot of dense grooves on this record, and that's one of them. Butcher Baker, Candlestick Maker, you really shouldn't bring that other guy sometimes.
Really shouldn't bring that other guy. I thought he said God originally.
Or
I like
God.
the song.
Yeah.
It's one of my faves, I think, on the album.
Yeah, real fun melody. Da, 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 got a broken back. Kind of like Beach Boys-y a little bit, like fun.
Yeah, and that like it's not a cowbell, but Brian Wilson used that a lot.
Like clave maybe, or like
yeah, I think that's a clave.
Or like brick or something, yeah.
Yeah, good lyrics. And one's a Gemini, and one's a friend of mine.
And one's a Gemini. Yeah, I really like that part too. Yeah, this was a sleeper, I think, at first for me, but I think, one of the highlights of this front half.
And just the kind of liquidy swishing feel of the beat. It's really cool, really great production. Always something happening.
Yeah.
The atmospherics on this record are amazing.
Agreed. Lots of little sonic treats sort of peppered everywhere, but you have these heavy grooves kind of anchoring you down. Chia. Really shouldn't bring that other guy.
Wow, 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 wow. No, I like this next run of 3 songs. I think the album really picks up, and it's a cool little run, beginning with this one into the next track.
Boys Latin. Now I know you don't like Mr. Noah. I just don't know what to expect with each new track.
Oh, I dig this one.
Okay, good.
This is before we reached peak hocketing with painting with, this is like, I'm cool with hocketing by yourself. It sounds amazing, but hocketing with 2 people is a little tough. No, I dig this one. This one was like immediately memorable, seeing the songs live first, because of the kind of, me and my friend would just joke about like, man, like Panda Bear's so good at just singing vowels, like A-E-I-O-U. And the just really like big beat behind this, it really just hits really hard, really hits your lower chakra,
Oh, dude. Hit you square. Yeah, incredible song. I really love the intro. Kind of like Mr. Noah. It gives you that feeling of like these disparate atoms, spirits kind of swirling around and then like coming together and like taking shape as some kind of being.
For sure, yeah.
It's really cool how like, it comes in with this heavy throbbing synth with a kind of loose groove behind it. So loose, in fact, that it's like not quite in time with the synth. And then suddenly it like transposes up, to like, it starts off on that lower note.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it transposes up to the note. And then once it modulates up, the beat's like locked in. And I love songs like this that sort of, you can kind of see a preview into like the initial jamming that this song came from, like even when the hocketing singing comes in, you get the sense that he's just kind of trying out sounds and notes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's taking shape right in front of you. It's like becoming what the song is. And I love that feeling. Animal Collective does it really well. And what do you think he's singing there? What's your best guess?
And the hocketing part?
The hocketing part, yeah.
I have no idea. I never really tried to even like, I think about it. I don't know. I just thought he was saying like A-E-I-O-U. He's just singing the vowels, and it sounds incredible. Is like, what do you think it is, and is there official lyrics?
So I think there are. I have the expanded LP, and there's not lyrics with it. Although I think one of the versions has lyrics. I think I remember reading that. So I don't have them, but I think he's saying beasts don't have a sec to think, but we don't appreciate our things. That's my best guess. And I think it kind of has to do with like consciousness. Like even the way it's sung, it's fractured, it's spread out. There's like two voices and it's so repetitive. It's like beasts don't have a sec to think, but we don't appreciate our things. I don't know. It's like communicating some like how consciousness itself is like fleeting, like it's always happening. And
yeah,
I don't know. To me, it's like kind of capturing the feeling of like this animal mind in some way that's maybe less in touch with their like, I guess, greater consciousness and a little more like instinctual and in the moment. I don't know. That's my big stoner breakdown of the lyrical meaning. But
it's probably.
But then we got this chorus melody that floats down from the heavens, descends down. Love this chorus. So pretty and such a nice break. Once we've been hocketed to pieces, we get this little chorus, or I guess you could call it the chorus. I mean, this song has like a sandwich, structure. There's like the
chorus is the verses.
Yeah, little chorus, little something savory in the middle, hocketing on either side of it, or maybe horseshoe shaped. It's another way to think about it.
Yeah, no, it is. The structure is weird, but yeah, I really like this one.
I guess Boys Latin is a prep school in Baltimore.
Oh, right on.
Dark cloud descending again.
I like that part where he goes like really low afterwards.
Yeah, love those.
Whatever the fuck he says, but
that's a classic Panda Bear vocal move. The goofy lower register. And just kind of the story of this album, where it's placed with like the fracturing vocals. It feels like his psyche, his personality, or whatever it is that's breaking apart in this album. This identity is like kind of reaching its breaking point here.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I guess, the last song in this A part of the record, Come to Your Senses. Are you mad, bro?
Are you mad?
At first, I always thought it was just like, the classic, like asking your partner, hey, are you mad? But there's also a way to think about it, like, are you mad? Like the British, are you mad?
Oh.
Are you crazy? Are you angry, or are you mentally unstable?
Yeah. I really dig this one. It's kind of like, the dirty beat, but beautiful vocal lines, kind of.
Dirty beat. We start off by plugging a spike into the back of our heads and getting jacked into the matrix. That's how I feel like for a lot of the like little crazy synth stingers at the beginning of these songs. I feel like we're like getting plugged into
Yeah.
And then the groove breaks in. Yeah, this one's got some real growly, like acid synth bass. Which is cool.
Boom, boom,
another sort of maybe precursor to like the painting with squelchy, gastric synthy sounds. But yeah, I think it works well in this song. Don't you make that one again?
This the last time. Yeah, so good.
Yeah. I think of like a partner dispute again or something, or like there's some sort of cyclical issue, like since the last time.
Some bullshit, some fucking she was wrong, he's right.
Real cool outro to Come to Your Senses.
Oh yeah.
It's like a minute long, kind of resets your brain. And it's like, again, we're sort of like being transported into like the next stage of this record. And this to me is like the biggest break or the biggest change between here and Tropic of Cancer.
Yeah.
We've got these horns, this horn call at the beginning, which is actually, it's a military bugle call called The Last Post.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know this?
I recently discovered that. Yeah, it's
Nice.
the British Army, 1544.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the bugle call that signifies the end of the day's activities, but also it's played at like military funerals or like to commemorate those who have died in war.
interesting.
Obviously, part of this track is about Noah losing his own father to brain cancer.
Yeah.
And after these sort of solemn horns, we've reached the end of something and we're at the beginning of something else. We're in this like wasteland, sort of on these like windswept plains. This harp comes in. That is a sample from the Nutcracker soundtrack. It's a piece by Tchaikovsky called Pas de Deux. And if you listen to the whole thing, I think you'll hear some familiar melodies. And then, yeah, Noah singing really like we've never heard him sing before on this song. And it's incredible. It's a heartbreaking story about species and survival and what that entails. He's reckoning with death and the reality of our physical world, and where something like cancer can infect and kill you for reasons we don't really understand. But we can try to in various ways, one of which is by writing a song like this. And he's talked a lot about how it's about, trying to have sympathy for like the disease as its own, as an organism unto itself, just trying to survive. But still, even with that remove, it's pretty sad and touching, and especially the "you can't come back, you won't come back," and then the harp sample kind of starts to melt and like droop in pitch. That's such a cool thing how he does that with the sample, like manipulates it to kind of mirror the like emotion of the song. I always think of like the goopy clock painting, the like whatever classic surrealists.
Dali?
Is that Dali?
I think so. Yeah, this is definitely one of his like maybe his most emotionally like resonant song that he's ever made. It's pretty direct. He's not really hiding behind any layers of sound.
Yeah.
It's just kind of him.
And we're kind of like slow dancing.
Yeah. It's this is a really cool mode and definitely like breaking new ground. He hasn't done a sort of thing like this really before, instrumentally and vocally. Yeah, this is a great one. Definitely a devastating song.
Crooner.
But it's beautiful.
Crooner style.
Crooner.
Driving crooner. Yeah, man. It's the emotional climax of the album for me. The call and response part leading up to that like high note is just amazing. And then in the end of the song, we sample pitches down and then we stay there. We stay in the darkness. There's no returning to the major chord version of the sample. There's a quote here from him. Ultimately, the way it made sense for me was the first 5 or 6 songs feel like an identity that's breaking apart. They're the more hectic songs. There's often more stuff in them. There's more confusing moments in them. The whole thing feels like it dissolves to the point where there's this trumpet call in a song called Tropic of Cancer. That song and Lonely Wanderer are meant to represent the times in my life that I've gone through a really dramatic change of character, or something has happened that really caused an explosion mentally or spiritually in my life. That transitional place has often felt really cold, barren, and difficult. Within the story arc of the album, I feel like after the trumpet call, it signifies that limbo state. Those are the songs that don't really have any distinctive rhythm. They just kind of float around, Tropic of Cancer and Lonely Wanderer. Meant to be the bridge between the old identity and the new identity.
Yeah, it's a cool little lull in the record, these songs back to back.
Yeah, if on the expanded edition, Tropic of Cancer, Shadow of the Colossus, and Lonely Wanderer are all just one side. So they kind of live in this cool little universe onto themselves.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
I think Tropic of Cancer goes into top Panda Bear for me. It was the last one he sang at the Sonic Boom show last fall in the encore, which was awesome.
Same. I think it was the last one when I saw him in New York City.
Yeah, I just think it's cool to like structure an album like that.
Yeah.
Also, after this, whatever you want to call it, liminal space, Black Lodge,
Definitely liminal.
we don't really return to like the breakbeat, crazy synth world. After that, we've got
That's true.
Principe Real, which is like a crazy dance track, Selfish Gene, and then Acid Wash.
Yeah, I never realized that the vibe of the album kind of really shifts
Totally.
on side 2, even from 3 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 2 discs
My expanded edition is
or 1?
I don't know if there's a single LP version. I'm sure there is actually.
Yeah, it's kind of like 3 parts to this album: the breakbeaty stuff, then the liminal stuff, and then the second,
Totally.
third,
Yeah.
the last third.
Yeah.
And it's like it makes sense with the title of the album, Panda Bear. Is it? Yeah, it meets the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that.
And this kind of symbolizing facing death,
Yeah.
dying, killing yourself in a good way. It's an ode to a lot of the dub records that
Right.
Noah loves. King Tubby. A lot of dub records kind of have these titles. Meets versus
Meets Uptown or something, or yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool.
Really, really cool.
It's a mix of like playfulness with like, yeah, obviously serious transition, serious change. Also, I realized that for a while I was thinking of it as Panda Bear versus the Grim Reaper, which it's like that's what's on the art.
But the titles meets.
The shorthand for it is PB versus, GR.
Yeah, the heads shorthanded as.
But it is
PB.
meets, and those are different things. Like meeting the Grim Reaper / versing the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
So that's it.
It's different.
Interesting distinction. Yeah. Some of the art associated with it has this like this one illustration of Noah really like facing off with this snake-filled Grim Reaper like in his studio. And he's also holding what appears to be like a PS3 controller.
Hell yeah. He's definitely a gamer. Love it.
Speaking of gaming, the next track is Shadow of the Colossus.
Another cool little segue.
Did you ever play that? You're not much of a gamer, are you?
Not anymore. I didn't realize that was a game. For what platform?
It was for PlayStation.
Gotcha. I was a PlayStation guy. I was definitely a PlayStation guy for a while, but don't remember that one. Didn't have it.
I haven't beaten it. I played it a couple years ago when it got like remastered and re-released. But it's a cool game.
No, I mean, and the video game nostalgia, I think, is a big part of, Animal Collective, Noah, Panda Bear, the whole universe it draws on that for sure. I think a lot of fans also love gaming and are into gaming, especially, Sega, PlayStation, some of the older 90s shit.
Yeah, totally. Even when we did the AV Tear Cows and Hourglass Pond episode, he had like some video game reference that was inspiration. Quick quote from Noah on the game, Shadow of the Colossus. He says, "I felt like there was a lot of stuff on the album about dark sides of identity, the potential in all of us to do gnarly, horrible stuff to each other. So the title worked for me in that context, the shadow being this darker element of the Colossus, or the giant, which is our ego. It's a really unique video game too. The thing looks awesome, first of all, and then every level is just a guy trying to take down and scale this giant monster. Similarly, I felt a lot of the songs addressed that scenario."
You did it.
Lonely Wanderer.
Got
a sample of Debussy, Debussy, I think. Debussy. Arabesque is the track.
I like this one as well, in the same similar vein of Tropic of Cancer. Very airy track.
Totally.
Love the piano line.
Mm-hmm. Sort of throbbing dark minor chord that like hits in.
Yeah.
Every now and again. It's really cool.
If you look back.
Taking stock. passage of time, reaching an age where you have enough perspective to start kind of asking questions of the life you've made for yourself. Príncipe Real, a park in Lisbon.
Oh.
A banger of a track.
Yeah.
Panda Bear goes boom bap.
Yeah, boom bap.
Polyrhythmic boom bap track.
Boom bap, yeah. This one, I think this was like one of the first songs that people heard before any single dropped and before people knew, this is what the album was going to be.
Oh, really? Like from live?
Not even live. I think like this song, like snippets of it were kind of leaked, maybe intentionally, pretty early on before the album cycle started. Yeah, this one's cool. It's not one that sticks out to me. It's kind of like one of those like later track album cuts that are there because, it has to meet a certain vibe. But I like this one. Yeah, I feel like, I want to, this is a cool little track.
Yeah, it's really unique to me in his body of work.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. His singing style is dope. It's cool.
It's sort of like vocoded and like roboticized.
Yeah.
The chorus melody is like so catchy to me. That
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Part of me thinks the Daft Punk bros heard this and were like, "Oh, this dude can write like hooks to dance music."
Well,
even though it's very different than doing it right, I feel like
and
this is like so kind of out of his usual wheelhouse.
It's got a more sexy European vibe to it for sure.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's an underrated track. I dig this one. It's kind of like a peek into like alternate reality Panda Bear. Like,
yeah.
While doing research for this, I read that while making this record, he was also just making a bunch of like dance music, just instrumental dance music that he like doesn't sing on. And he's like, I don't think this is good enough to just release.
Yeah.
But this is like an alternate reality where he like takes some of these dance tracks and makes them into Panda Bear songs.
Speaking of this being kind of an alternate universe Panda Bear, I don't know if you ever heard, he did a remix to an Eric Copeland song during this era that was on an Eric Copeland EP, and it's him singing in this kind of higher register over like a breakbeat 90s dance song. It's really fucking cool. I actually made a playlist kind of mixing together and subtracting songs from the Grim Reaper era.
Oh, tight.
As like an alt version of the album that I'll post on our Instagram, and that song's on there. It's a really cool vibe, and imagine like a full kind of Noah album, maybe under a different moniker in this vein. I mean, fucking hell yeah, dude. Right, let's do it.
Another little quote from him about Príncipe Real coming off the like narrative of the album we've been talking about, out of the liminal Black Lodge zone. This is the first track of like the new identity. And he says, quote, then the first song after that, the first song where the new thing is becoming what it is, of course, has this relation to the old identity. It's still the same person, but the voice in that Príncipe Real song has this other weird synthetic component to it. I think I played the singing part and then Pete vocoded those vocals. Within the story, it worked for me because it was like that identity hadn't become itself yet. So it was this alien, not fully human sounding thing. It's a little rocky at the end where the new identity is becoming itself. So even in the narrative of the record, there's this cool, like, there's this rebirth, and he's like maybe trying out this track that is a little bit outside of his usual game.
No, that's really cool, yeah.
He says, continuing the quote and to take us to these next tracks, he says, the last songs on the album, Selfish Gene and Acid Washed, are like sea shanties to me. There's a weird undercurrent of sailor stuff going through the album, which I suppose has this Portuguese influence subconsciously. That's from the Rolling Stone piece.
So cool.
But yeah, Selfish Gene, we've got this throbbing synth ARP kind of pulse going. And this is another lovely one. How do you like Selfish Gene?
Definitely grew on me a lot. I like it. Only you can fill those spaces.
Yeah.
Dope track. It's cool how there's like no beat. It's just the massive synth line, like growing superpowers.
Massive synth. And then this vocal melody that kind of is looping back on itself in this nice way. Making noise, not making songs. I like that line a lot.
Yeah, so good.
And then the little "you'll trip up again." Even though you're transformed, you're not perfect. You still
this feels like
still gonna be fucking up.
This feels like the transformation is complete or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just full power up mode, just batteries recharged.
Yeah, we're starting to levitate in the air a little bit. Our hair's turning blonde. Yeah, we're through the looking glass, and now we're kind of like reflecting, I guess, a little bit on the journey. Acid wash. Speaking of like the journey and like annihilating your former personality, I feel like there's a pretty apt like psychedelic drug metaphor to be made, especially with a title like Acid Wash being the last track. I wonder if that was maybe part of the experience leading up to this, but
of course this whole album is a psychedelic trip,
for sure, dude.
And it's amazing. I mean, what better way to transform yourself?
Yeah.
Love this song.
Epic closer. Maybe his most epic closer.
Totally. It almost seems like it could be like, in a just world one day, it could be like a song that kids sing, like the Pledge of Allegiance or something every day,
Yeah, it does have like a choral. Yeah.
It has like a very kind of frontier, hopeful vibe. And it does sound like being on the water in a boat, kind of pushing forward. And
as the ship on the sea cuts the froth. I mean, that's fucking poetry right there.
Wow. Yeah, I'm getting like Enya vibes a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, we're on the open sea.
It's, classic kind of not bittersweet, but happy but a little sad Animal Collective.
Yeah.
Panda Bear closer.
The story's ending.
The story's ending. Life's good. We're okay. We're going to be okay.
It's tinged with melancholy for sure. There's also like I think the wateriness of this track kind of has like hints of like sequential circuits as well. So there's a little bit of like a cyclical thing. Even with this whole journey of transformation, there's a hint that like we'll transform again, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah,
man. Epic closer.
Wow. It's over.
Dig it. We're through. We're through the other side. There's one more quote from this Rolling Stone thing. He says, "I'm not a psychedelic warrior by any means," which, I might beg to differ, but he says, "but that's an element of music that I find to be very psychedelic, when everything mixes in weird ways and you can't tell what's what. That's when quasi-magical stuff starts to happen, when things start tricking my ear and my brain. One of my favorite questions is asking people how they define psychedelic music. And for me, it has something to do with things tricking your ear, when things are more than the sum of their parts. I feel like that's the target with my music, the psychedelic sweet spot." I like that quote a lot. And it also makes me think of this record, like especially the first half where we have this mix of like crazy synths and then like groovy breakbeats. It's like this unlikely pairing that is sort of like unsustainable. Like it shatters at some point and doesn't return in this record.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was cool how like the musical composition mirrors this sort of psychedelic tale, I guess, in a cool way.
Totally. I mean, I think, to wrap up this album, a solid album, like really good. And I think it just kind of caps off, Noah, Panda Bear as like being, I mean, if you want to talk about one person, one guy, one artist and his or her influence, I feel like in the 20th century, I just feel like he's up there, I think, in terms of influence in indie rock, but music at large, you had him kind of revolutionize bedroom electronic recording and samples with, pop melodies. And then it kind of bubbled up where, people like Beyonce were sampling him and he was working with Solange and Daft Punk. And, I think aside from like maybe Kanye, I mean, I'd put him up there with Kanye in terms of the influence of like, one artist on a generation Kanye would be both, I think, more on a pop mainstream level. But I think in terms of like indie music, Noah is like, he's pretty up there. And I think this album kind of capped it off. Like that was the run, you know?
For sure. Yeah, this marks the end of a really incredible run, a really incredible period of creativity. And yeah, speaking of what you were saying, just how it affects culture at large, it's interesting because and on the one hand, it's sort of how this stuff works. Like there's kind of genius that's on the fringes that filters its way into the mainstream in these different forms. But also he's kind of in the unique place where he like started popping up in these mainstream places, like the Daft Punk collab, like the Solange, whatever, Beyonce stuff. Like, and yeah, just like you said, like his fingerprints are all over the influence of like contemporary experimental and yeah, not even experimental, but just music at large.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tomboy and Person Pitch edged this one out, but not by much. I mean, this trilogy of records.
I agree, not by much.
Super, super strong.
Real good. Very solid.
What's up, guys? Hope you dug the Grim Reaper deep dive. That's all we got for now. Got another episode coming of the other EPs from this era, remix album, Swallow with the Hollow, all that. And yeah, thanks so much once again for being part of this with us. Really appreciate it. And I hope everyone's doing well. Until next time, peace.
Bonefish.